there everybody, my name is Jason Moffatt, and a few months ago I created a review video on my Bikram yoga experience, and I waited about 11 classes before I actually made a review, so I had time to really experience what it was all about. And I was kind of shocked. I was looking yesterday and that video has actually over 7,200 views, and I've received a ton of comments and emails about it, and I never thought I would get that many views. I actually just intended to make it for like a small community of my friends, and so it was kind of a shock when I saw that many people viewing it. In fact, if you do Bikram yoga review, it's the #1 search result on Google, and I thought it would be fair to create a second review video because I just logged my 50th class the other day, and my experience is quite different now after that many classes, and I wanted to share it with you guys and be really honest, as I was in my first video as well. And you know, I have a lot of friends who are Bikram instructors and people who practice Bikram, and I have a lot of other friends who are instructors of different type of yoga that hate Bikram, and you know, there's just so much conflicting stuff going on. And so I guess the first thing that I'll say is I really only want to do this review about the practice itself, and I'm not so concerned about Bikram the guy. I don't know him. I don't know all the controversy that follows him. I may kind of know, but I don't know the specifics of it, so I don't want to comment on it, and I think it's kind of irrelevant, with the exception of maybe plugging that name and brand if there was you know, kind of some atrocious things going on. I don't necessarily like to do that, but I really just want to focus on the practice and the health benefits that I've gotten and that you may get, and from all the questions that I've been getting, so people can get some honest answers about whether or not doing Bikram is right for them. So I've taken 3 classes here in Portland, Oregon, down at the Fremont studio. I did about 5 or 6 classes 2 months ago when I was visiting town, but I took off quite a bit of time. I was doing Bikram every day, maybe 5-6 days a week in San Diego, and it was really intense. And I'll actually link to the first review video that I did, but I was getting incredible results physically, the way I felt, like in my mind it was like this weird hippie crack, but I actually started experiencing severe dehydration, and I thought I was drinking a lot of water and trying to replenish my electrolytes, but I apparently wasn't doing enough, and it caused some real problems in my stomach, and I was getting these side pains, and you know, I was constipated for quite a while, and it was kind of scary, and I didn't like it. Now granted, I was doing Bikram 5-6 days a week. I was also surfing 5 and 6 days a week at time, which was thoroughly dehydrating me. I was in the sun, you know, be out there for 2-3 hours sometimes during the day. So I was extremely active, and you know, I was a lot of that time on mostly like a raw vegan diet. Most of my food, I noticed I have to start eating a lot of other foods to be able to keep up. So one of the things that concerned me a little bit is that the Bikram instructors, great people, I mean, I don't have any problems personally with them, but sometimes they seem to push people in a way that maybe is too much. And at times I like that. I really want them to push me, and I enjoy an instructor who really moves me to go beyond my comfort zone. However, there are other times when I know, I'm like, screw that, I'm sitting this posture out. Particularly getting camel, I'm lightheaded and I can't do it. And I sit down and I don't have a problem with that. And I want to encourage you to never feel pressured by the instructor, somebody who's practicing next to you or anything, to not listen to your own body and know when to sit out. And you really need to know that, because a Bikram instructor is just that. They're a Bikram instructor. You don't necessarily want to take other types of advice from them unless they're specialized in that type of thing, because to be honest, a lot of the Bikram instructors I know, you know, drink and smoke and party in ways, and I'm not judging at all, but it just seems to be disproportionately Bikram instructors seem to party more than the other yoga practices I've been to. Again, no judgment, and that's fine, but at times I notice people asking like health advice or advice about the body and stuff. And I wouldn't necessarily think that that's a good idea at times. I would go someone who's a specialist about that. And so you really have a responsibility to yourself to know your body, know your limits, and to assert that when you feel something isn't right. Because a lot of people I've met have suffered injuries, and even myself, I felt myself stretch just a little bit too far, but thankfully I stopped. And the next day, you get that soreness from working out, but sometimes it can go a little too far where like, oh, I can't walk today, and nobody wants that. So I experienced too some weird things happening to me before, and the reason I actually quit going for a few months is I would have like a tidal wave of emotions when I'd hit the floor series just hit me, and I would get overwhelmed with all these feelings, and I think my heart was so open that I would just cry. And it wasn't a distracting type of crying and where like the whole class could tell, but it would just be all these emotions welling up, and then it would just pour out, and it was really intense. And to be honest, I actually kind of enjoyed it for a bit. I was open to letting those feelings flow. But after like 20 classes of crying every time, I was just like, man, I need a break. I'm not into this. And I'm happy to say I went back for these 3 classes this week after a few-month break, and I haven't had that issue at all. I've actually I've been fine. I actually had probably maybe the 3 best classes I've ever had, even despite taking that break. So don't be afraid to take breaks. I know a lot of times people get encouraged to, oh, I'm going to do a 30-day challenge, or I'm going to do a 60-day. And that's fine if you can sustain it. But a lot of that, I think, is ego, and not so much just really being grounded in doing the yoga. And and there's a lot of ego prevalent in Bikram. I mean, it's competitive, and which lends itself to a lot of criticism, which I don't really mind, because the only person I'm competing with is myself. I want to go just a little bit more in each posture than I did the last time, and that's the only person I'm competing with. I have to say I'm actually pretty proud of myself for not trying to compete with the other people in the class, because I'm actually naturally a competitive person, and I found myself staying focused in my practice, and particularly with looking at women. There's beautiful women in most of the classes, and a lot, and it's predominantly women. I mean, I think yesterday the class was about 20 women and 2 other guys, and what I found is I'm somehow, I feel blessed that I've been able to stay this focused. I stay focused on myself, and I try to offer that space to other women and other people. It's safe space, and people are wearing almost no clothes, so I don't want to be that peeper looking around. I just want to stay focused on myself, try to stay out of the ego, don't worry about the competition other than with myself, and just do the practice. So I love it, to be honest. I love it because no other types of yoga make me feel that high. I mean, I literally feel high when I come out of there. And I don't necessarily feel that way with other yoga classes. I feel great in other yoga classes, but I don't feel that level of intensity. But I think also striving for that level of intensity comes with a cost. Like I was saying, the dehydration, my stomach issues, it was not fun. So make sure you really hydrate yourself. Make sure that you listen to yourself and to your body, and not necessarily to your instructor all the time. It's okay to know more than the instructor about your own body, and don't feel pressured to go too far. But at the same time, also, allow the instructor to be able to push you. If you're just, and I've done it many times, you're kind of just trying to get through a pose and you're kind of faking it. Maybe you're in triangle and you're not fully reaching and stretching your arms. Push yourself then. But if you're like myself at times and you really run out of breath and you're just like hyperventilating, take a knee. Don't worry about it. Get in child's pose or lay in savasana and just hang out and sit out a pose. And one thing I noticed too is in the last few classes is I've been able to stay with my breath the entire class. And the classes before, where I was having the emotional issues come up, it would make my breath heavier and faster, and it would cause me to have a hard time finishing poses, and I'd have to sit out. I haven't sat out any of the poses in the last few classes because I've been able to stay with my breath evenly the entire time, and it's nice and it's comforting, and I enjoy it. So I'm going to continue to go. Like I said, I've been there about 50 times now, and I'm excited to keep going, but I'm not going to go 5 and 6 days a week. Maybe 2 times a week, maybe 3 max, but I'm going to make sure to keep drinking as much water as I can. Stay focused on my own practice, not worry about other people, not worry about the instructor, and then really go to other experts for advice in things like stomach issues that I was having. So I want to thank actually everyone who's been in Bikram with me or encouraged me. I'm friends with so many instructors that, you know, are dear friends and loved ones, and I thank you for pushing me and doing what you do. And even the people in the classes that you do the practice with, there's something about doing it all together in unison that really feels good. And even though you're not talking or looking around and thing, there's a camaraderie that I think kind of pushes you in a healthy way to really enjoy it. So I thought it was only fair to tell you some of the pros and cons I've experienced now after 50 classes of doing Bikram, and I hope it helps any of you guys that have emailed me or may see this video in the future. If you want to check out my personal blog, it's at jasonmoffatt.com, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.